Hello, my name is Rachel Smythe. I'm the Education Coordinator here at the Caregiver Resource Center, Orange County. We're so glad that you've joined us today for our presentation, Anatomy of a Scam. Anatomy of a Scam is brought to you through a partnership with Caregiver Resource Center, Orange County, and the Council on Aging, Southern California. We're so glad you're here, and we hope you find this information helpful. I'm turning it over now to Kelly Morris and Karen Rossi with the Council on Aging.
Good morning, afternoon, evening. Thank you to the Caregiver Resource Center of Orange County for this opportunity, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Kelly Morris, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of the Senior Protection Program for the Council on Aging, Southern California. I'm joined today by my program coordinator and co-presenter, Karen Rossi. Our goal today is to help you recognize the common elements of financial scams, which we call the anatomy of a scam. Recognize these elements will help you protect yourselves and those in your care from fraud and exploitation. First slide, please. We'll start by introducing you to our organization and our many programs and services. Then we'll discuss the growth of our older adult population, financial abuse of older and dependent adults, the anatomy of a scam, different types of scam, cybercrime, older and dependent adult vulnerabilities, caregiver red flags, and what can be done to prevent, report, and recover from scams. So thank you again for joining us. And at this point, I'll hand things over to my co-presenter, Karen Rossi, to introduce you or reacquaint you with the Council on Aging.
Thank you, Kelly. Next slide, please. The Council on Aging serves approximately 290,000 older and dependent adults in Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, Inyo, and Mono counties each year. We have just 80 full-time employees to accomplish our mission, so this makes us largely volunteer-driven with approximately 400 volunteers that provide tens of thousands of hours of service throughout the year. The majority of our funding comes from government grants, with the balance coming from individuals, foundations, and corporations. We have many programs at the Council on Aging that serve both dependent and older adults. In the interest of time, I'm going to give you a brief description of each of our programs and services. But if you'd like further details, COASC's general contact information and contact information for all of our programs appears on both our fraud booklet and a recovery guide, can also be obtained from the Caregiver Resource Center. Our first program is our Ombudsman program. Our ombudsmen are state-mandated representatives whose responsibility it is to advocate for residents in long-term and licensed facilities throughout Orange and Riverside counties. This includes assisted and independent living, memory care, and skilled nursing facilities. Ombudsmen will investigate any complaint of a resident, a family member, or a friend, whether large or small. For instance, if a resident is supposed to receive 3 hot meals a day and their food comes cold, the assigned ombudsman is able to address the concern with the facility. The contact information for the ombudsman assigned to any facility should be posted in a public place and should also include the 800 number, which connects the caller to the ombudsman program at the Council on Aging. Our next program is HICAP, or Health Insurance Counseling and Advocacy Program. This is a free, unbiased Medicare counseling program that provides services in all 5 counties. Our counselors are very busy during enrollment for Medicare through October and December. However, this group of well-trained staff and volunteers is available year-round to review your Medicare insurance coverage and to ensure that you're enrolled in the least expensive plan that covers both your physician and prescription medication needs. The next program is our Friendly Visitor Program. This program provides companionship for older independent adults who can no longer leave their home for any number of reasons. We will pair an individual with a social worker who visits them once a week to provide support and friendship to isolated individuals. Our friendly visitors assure access to necessary resources, including food, healthcare, transportation, and in-home care services. Most importantly, They reduce isolation, which can create a high-risk environment for financial fraud and abuse. The Reconnect program is very similar to the Friendly Visitor program, but there's one major difference. The Reconnect program focuses on older and dependent adults who have the ability to leave their homes, but for any number of reasons no longer feel connected to their community. For example, the death of a spouse could trigger a move to be near adult children. However, after moving, the adult discovers that the children are busy with their own children and their work, so the individual is now alone in a new location with no friends nearby and no real familiarity of the area or how to get around in this new location. Reconnect participants are paired with social workers and volunteers who determine what types of activities the participant might be interested in, and they accompany the participant to events so they are not uncomfortable if they were attending alone. The Reconnect program is limited to 12 months of participation. However, many of our participants graduate early and they join in recurring activities and establish new friendships to become reconnected with their community. Participants also come back frequently as peer mentors or to lead the classes for the next group of participants. The Smile Maker program provides holiday cheer to lonely adults who may be forgotten during the holidays. Each year, our ombudsmen identify residents in their facilities who would likely be forgotten at the holiday, and they identify a gift that they would like to receive. Our Smile Makers then transfer the gift request to Old Angels. We hang them as ornaments on Christmas trees, and then we adopt them out to the community for fulfillment. Once the gift requests are fulfilled, the gifts are brought to the Smile Maker workshop, where they are wrapped and identified for a specific resident. The gifts are then distributed to each facility and handed out during holiday celebrations. Last year, in a 3-week period, we wrapped over 5,500 gifts. Concierge Care Navigators is a fee-for-service program staffed by a group of registered nurses and senior care professionals who provide care management, in-home assessments, online personalized care plans, and generally assist families and their loved ones as they navigate through the aging process. Even those of us who work with older independent adults need help navigating the aging process with our parents. Both Kelly and I have used their services to assist us in caring for our mothers, and we highly recommend them. Finally, our Senior Protection Program. We provide education and advocacy focused on financial exploitation and scams. Through educational presentations like this one, we share information on how to spot and avoid abuse with an emphasis on financial abuse. We also act as advocates and as a resource warehouse to assist individuals in obtaining services needed to address issues of abuse and to recover from that abuse. According to the Orange County Master Plan for Aging, the population of adults aged 65 and over in Orange County was estimated to be about 400,000 in 2020. If we look at the national numbers, this population is expected to grow. By 2050, it's estimated that the 65 plus population will be 83.7 million. That's twice what it is today. And the segment of that population, 85 and over, is expected to triple. This is great news. We're living longer, we're enjoying life after retirement.
Also creates more opportunity for abuse and exploitation, particularly financial abuse. We put a particular focus on financial abuse as it is the fastest growing and least reported form of abuse directed at older and dependent adults. In fact, California is outpacing the nation in incidence of reported cases of financial abuse. However, we don't know exactly why this is. Is there a larger concentration of older adults in California? Is there a larger concentration of wealth in California? Or are we just better at reporting financial abuse in California? Regardless of the reason, it's not an area in which we want to be at the top of the leaderboard. Your best defense against financial abuse is to be proactive in spotting and avoiding abuse in the first place. So today we're going to discuss the anatomy of a scam, which is the common elements that you find in every financial scam. If you can recognize these elements regardless the details of the scam itself, you can protect those in your care from falling victim to a scam. So The purpose of recognizing these elements is to cause you to be skeptical of a situation should these elements arise. That is to perk up your spidey sense. So let's review these elements one at a time. So the first element that we see commonly is there is generally an unexpected contact from someone, whether that's someone known to you or a complete stranger. The contact can be made by phone, email, text, even social media. For example, I could receive a call from the receptionist at my doctor's office. This is someone with whom I'm familiar, but I'm not expecting a call from this person or from my doctor's office. So this is unexpected contact. It could be a legitimate call, but if I'm not expecting a call from my doctor's office, I should at least be skeptical of the call and question its legitimacy. Second, there's an offer of something valuable to you. If what was being offered wasn't valuable, then no one would be fooled. So referring back to the example that I just gave of an unexpected call from my doctor's office, let's say that the caller's purpose for calling me is to confirm my Medicare card number and Social Security number, both of which the caller says are required to process a claim for my last visit and get paid. This is, of course, valuable to me. If my doctor's office is unable to get paid, then they will bill me and I will have to pay the charges out of pocket and then submit a claim for reimbursement to Medicare. If I'm an older adult living on a fixed income, it's unlikely I have a lot of discretionary money to pay a large medical bill and wait to get reimbursed. So again, this is of value to me. It's going to draw me in. Third, there is always a request for personal or financial information. Now, asking me for my bank account number or credit card number may be an obvious red flag. But what if I'm only being asked for what seems to be unimportant or benign personal information, such as my date of birth, address, or phone number? Keep this in mind because we'll talk about this more as we move through our presentation. And the fourth element that we commonly see is there's always pressure to act quickly, either from the person contacting you, or it could be internal pressure to act quickly to retain what is of value to you or avoid missing out on a great deal.
Most scams are what we call imposter scams. That means that the imposter is pretending to be something or someone they're not. Let's look at some stories that scammers tell, and we can identify the red flags that we see in all scams. Your Social Security number has been frozen. Call back now for your free back brace. There's a lawsuit against you for unpaid taxes. There's a warrant for your arrest for failing to appear in court. In all of these stories, there's an unsolicited or unexpected contact from what seems to be a legitimate source. Social Security, the IRS, Medicare, even law enforcement. But this should raise a red flag. If you did not call any of these sources and you were not expecting a call back, but you received one, you should be suspicious. Each story centers around something of value. So this is your second red flag. In the Social Security story, the thing of value is the access to your retirement money. That could be your only source of income. In the IRS story, the thing of value is avoiding a lawsuit assessed by fines and penalties or prosecution from outstanding taxes or even alleged tax fraud. In the Medicare scam, the thing of value is a free medical device. And in the law enforcement story, the thing of value is settling a warrant and avoiding arrest and going to jail. In each of these stories, an individual is asked to provide either personal or financial information. That's your red flag number 3. You might be asked to make immediate payment of back taxes or fines to resolve a warrant. You might also be asked to confirm your bank account information or provide new banking information to receive your retirement income, or simply be asked to provide some personal information so you can receive your free merchandise. I just want to be sure that we're all aware our personal information is as valuable, if not more valuable, than financial information. We give out our personal information all the time in everyday interactions and transactions, and we don't really think much about it. However, it only takes a few pieces of information for someone to assume or steal your identity. So after you provide your name, address, and in the Medicare scam example, perhaps your date of birth to confirm you qualified for Medicare benefits, and maybe your social security number or even your Medicare number. Criminals can obtain other personal information by doing some simple Google searches, and then they're off to the races. They're ready to scam you. They can open credit cards. They can make large purchases. They can obtain medical care using your identity, and you're on the hook for the debt. So think carefully before giving out your personal information and assuming your request for personal information isn't harmful, or maybe that it's less harmful than actually giving out your financial information. Our personal information is actually our most valuable information. Each of these stories also involves the pressure to act quickly. That's red flag number 4. There is, of course, external pressure from the imposter to provide the information or act without thinking. There's also an internal pressure that we place on ourselves because we want to access our money, we want to avoid lawsuits and arrests, or we don't want to miss out on a great deal like a free medical device. It is possible that a known entity may be contacting you for a legitimate reason. However, if these red flags are raised, you should at the very least proceed with caution and think before you act to avoid getting caught up in a scam. During COVID, the FBI saw a significant rise in what we call cybercrime. Cybercrime is any kind of scam or fraud that uses the internet or phone lines. This kind of crime is considered to be so quickly growing, it has been described as the 3rd largest economy in the world behind the United States and China. As a reminder, financial crimes are highly underreported, so the actual growth in cybercrime is likely to be significantly higher than the numbers we're going to see. Older and dependent adults are particularly vulnerable to cybercrime for a number of reasons, including our lack of training and understanding of common electronic tools like smartphones and computers. Older adults also tend to be a lot more trusting. They don't assume others have bad intentions because they themselves have none. They may also be more easily coerced and persuaded to do something to avoid what might be an uncomfortable conflict. According to FBI statistics, individuals over the age of 60 are more often victims of cybercrime, and they lose more money to fraud than any other age category. It was true long before COVID, and we will see that it will continue into 2021 and 22. The FBI data is not yet available. If you look at FBI statistics from their IC3 reporting site, you can see that in 2018, California outpaced the nation in the number of victims, as well as the total number of dollars lost to cybercrime. Unfortunately, this trend continued through 2020, and we're expecting it to continue further into 2021 and 2022. California represents the greatest percentage of reported crimes, as well as the greatest amount of dollars lost. Orange County is one of the leading counties in California for this kind of crime.
However, Karen, to put things into perspective, older adults are not just vulnerable to cybercrime. They're vulnerable in general due to some unique susceptibilities, and these susceptibilities are also shared with dependent adults. As caregivers, it's critically important to understand these vulnerabilities. So let's look at these vulnerabilities that are unique to older adults and shared by dependent adults as well. So older and some dependent adults are more likely to suffer from memory loss and or dementia, which of course makes them more susceptible to abuse. Here in Orange County, new statistics provided by Alzheimer's Orange County just this month show that 164,000 residents have dementia or mild cognitive impairment. This is 3 times the seating capacity of the Angel Stadium, 8 times the maximum capacity of the Honda Center, and more than the maximum capacity of Disneyland. Dementia and reduced cognitive ability increases the likelihood that an individual will be taken advantage of, as they are more likely to be dependent on and trusting of others, or easily persuaded or convinced to do something. They may not recall if they gave someone permission to use their debit card, making them a poor witness in a claim of abuse. Or they may be more isolated because they are less social as a direct result of confusion or even embarrassment about not being able to remember people, places, or facts. Older adults and some dependent adults are also more likely to suffer chronic health and medical problems, and this makes them more dependent on others, which in turn makes them more susceptible to abuse. You're more likely to look the other way if someone is using your credit card without your permission, if you're dependent on that person for food, help with dressing, bathing, picking up your prescriptions, and taking you to your medical and other appointments. Older independent adults often suffer untreated depression, anxiety, trauma, and experience a higher rate of loss. As we age or we lose our ability to be independent, we naturally experience a series of losses that younger or independent individuals may not experience. For example, the loss of the ability to drive, to socialize, to make our mark on the world, and loss of our sense of value. Older independent adults also tend to be more isolated and less social, so we may become more dependent on someone who has bad intentions or be willing to turn a blind eye as someone steals our assets because we enjoy the attention they're giving us or the purpose they bring to our lives. One of the largest risks that increases an older or dependent adult's risk of being taken advantage of is capacity. So, capacity is the ability to manage your own affairs with an understanding of the consequences of the decisions that you make. It's often at the heart of many financial abuse allegations. As an example, if someone is caught up in a scam, well-meaning family members may allege that an older or dependent adult no longer has the capacity to manage their own affairs, especially their financial affairs. Therefore, due to their diminished capacity, another individual should be identified to take over this responsibility. In the state of California, a show of capacity or lack of capacity is determined only by a court of law. That process is very complicated. However, the one thing that all California residents should know is that you're presumed to have capacity to manage your own affairs until a court of law says otherwise. So, what makes the determination of capacity complicated? In California, capacity is not all or nothing. Much like autism, capacity is decided on a spectrum. It used to be that people were either severely autistic with very little ability to care for themselves or their affairs, or they were highly functioning and diagnosed with what's called Asperger's syndrome. However, over time, the medical community realized that there were a lot of individuals who had autistic traits that did not fit into either of those very narrow categories. And the autism spectrum was created to capture the many different levels of autism. A capacity determination in California follows the same model. So while an individual may not have the capacity to enter into a real estate deal because they don't understand the ramification of doing so, they may still retain the capacity to do much simpler things like pay their bills, make their own decisions about where they live, who they want as their heirs, or who they'd like to manage their health care should they become unable to do so. Presumption of capacity benefits all of us because it allows us to retain our autonomy even if others, like the well-meaning family members I spoke about in the previous slide, are not in agreement with our decisions. Many people ask, but what if my doctor says I'm not able to take care of my own affairs anymore? A doctor's opinion about your capacity has no legal relevance. While it might serve as persuasive evidence that someone is indeed lacking capacity, it has no value other than that. On the other hand, presumption of capacity can also harm us. Because we do have autonomy, we have the right to make decisions, even bad decisions that are not in our best interest and in fact may be harmful to us. For example, I might be tricked into naming someone as a power of attorney for my financial assets as part of a romance scam. Believing that this person loves me, I allow them to access my bank accounts, credit cards, and investments. My friends and family, of course, warn me that this is very foolish, but I don't listen because I'm in love and I want to share all that I have with my new love interest. I much later find out that I have unwittingly handed over access to my financial assets in a scam. Understanding capacity is especially important if you're a caregiver. It's important to have planning documents in place, including a power of attorney and an advanced healthcare directive, so that you can legally act on behalf of the person in your care. It's equally important to understand that the person you're caring for can change and or revoke these instruments, even if a doctor has diagnosed them with dementia or Alzheimer's, because remember, they're presumed to have capacity until a court of law says otherwise.
Thank you, Kelly. It's so important for all of us as caregivers to be able to recognize some of the red flags of financial fraud. Some of them are obvious and others are not quite so obvious. Knowledge of a new friend or love interest. Who is this person? How did they meet? Was it on the internet? Was it at church? Was it at a senior center? Was it a phone call? Sometimes understanding how and where they met provides a much clearer picture of possible risk. If you notice an increase in computer or phone use, someone who doesn't typically use their computer or phone regularly and suddenly spends a lot of time on their computer or checking their phone constantly for calls or text messages, they could be involved in a romance scam. They could be playing an illegitimate lotto game thinking they're going to win big money or recover the money they may have already lost. Missing jewelry can also be an indication of financial issues or a new romance. Was the ring that Aunt Betty used to wear every day and that was earmarked for her granddaughter in her will stolen? Was it sold? Was it pawned? Or did it just get given to somebody else? Any kind of secretive behavior is also a red flag. If mail is generally kept in a basket or in a pile in a corner, but suddenly it's nowhere to be found, this could indicate that there is a secret communication going on, or perhaps bills are going unpaid due to a change in financial circumstances that might be connected to a scam. Unusual purchases, this can also be a clue. As an example, a credit card charged for clothes purchased from Macy's formal wear department would be an unlikely purchase for an 85-year-old man or for a 50-year-old woman who has Parkinson's. There are also some not so obvious red flags. A change in appearance or hygiene habits. An improvement in appearance might signify a new romantic interest. For instance, a sudden interest in dressing up, wearing lipstick, a change in a hairstyle, or a clean-shaven face could also signal romance. On the other hand, if someone's appearance declines from lipstick to no lipstick, fancy clothes to sweats, this could also signal a decline in one's financial status. A significant change in mood could signal love, disappointment, recognition that you were scammed, sadness that a loved or trusted friend or a caregiver has taken advantage of you, and then feeling trapped with no hope of how you're going to get out of this abusive situation because you're dependent on them. Unmet basic needs such as poor appearance, no longer meeting friends for lunch or going out for social events, no longer buying that signature red lipstick can also signal financial concerns. Is there not enough money to eat lunch with your friends or to buy that red lipstick? Is there concern about running out of money or possibly outliving your own money? These can often be subtle changes, but they're only recognized over time, and it's possible that these changes are not associated with abuse, but with some other legitimate issue or concern. The important takeaway here is that if you do see these red flags, make an inquiry to determine what's driving these changes so that you can make an informed decision as a caregiver. So what can we do? Being aware of scams and financial abuse is one way to prevent or avoid abuse. We watch for the 4 red flags of every scam. Trust your gut. We are very rarely wrong. Talk with family, friends, organizations, others that are around you about the common and current scams. This is not a taboo topic. This is something that people discuss on a very regular basis. Report it. Encourage others to report abuse and exploitation. Statistics indicate that 1 out of 10 older or dependent adults will be financially abused, and only 1 in 24 of these cases will actually get reported. If you live independently outside of a facility and suspect that you or somebody that you care for is being abused, report the suspected abuse to Adult Protective Services. If you or a loved one are living at a licensed facility and suspect that you or the loved one are being abused, contact the ombudsman assigned to advocate for the residents in this facility. The number to call should be posted in a public place inside the facility. That 800 number leads you back to the Council on Aging, where they will identify your ombudsman. If you cannot remember who to call us. We will assist you in the reporting process. The contact information for our program, the Ombudsman in Orange and Riverside counties, and Adult Protective Services, or APS, in Orange County, appear in all of our program materials. If you or someone you care for has been the victim of a scam or financial abuse, enlist an advocate to walk you through the reporting process, as well as the process of protecting your financial accounts and assets or estate. You may need to seek legal advice or hire legal counsel. We can assist you with understanding what resources are available to you and how to access them.
Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation. Karen and I want to thank the Caregiver Resource Center of Orange County for this opportunity. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate that you've taken this occasion to educate yourselves about this very important topic. Our fraud booklets, recovery guides, bookmarks, and answer guides are available in print and electronic download from our website or from the Caregiver Resource Center. And the only thing left to do is to go out and spread the word. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you.